This is the Megatherium, a giant sloth that roamed Earth just 12,000 years ago. This beast stood more than 3.5 meters tall. And today, we're gonna see what this creature was all about. Oof, that one hurt. But this is just one way you might die from a prehistoric animal. Creatures that lived thousands or millions of years ago were absolutely terrifying. From giant dinosaurs to the largest snakes ever discovered. If you were to come face to face with any of these creatures, there's a pretty good chance you'd end up dead. But how would that shake down? Okay, let's start by sending Digipeater 60 million years into the past. This is the Cretaceous period. During this period, part of the Mesozoic era, there's a good chance you could come face to face with a Titanoboa. Titanoboa was nearly twice as big as any snake living today. They grew to more than 12.5 meters long and typically weighed over 1,000 kilograms. These giant snakes would lurk in swampy rainforests in what's now known as Colombia.
Titanoboa is such a big animal that, like big animals, it probably spent most of its time in the water. It would have been in aquatic environments for a good part of it, simply because it's so big, it's going to be hard to hide.
That's Dr. Michael Caldwell, one of the leading paleontologists here in Canada. Our correspondent Rose spoke with him and other prehistoric experts to figure out how I would die from these creatures. Thanks, Rose.
No problem, Peter. And speaking of which, what would happen if the Titanoboa attacked you?
Now, a snake this big needs a lot of food. And seeing a piece of prey the size of Digipeater, it would attack instantly. But how? Well, these snakes would swim through the water, using it for camouflage to get close enough to attack. They often hung out near lakes and rivers, waiting to strike. As it approaches Digipeater, the Titanoboa would open its mouth, sinking its curved teeth into him in order to grip and secure his body. A Titanoboa would then coil its body around you rapidly. The feeling would be like you were being crushed by the Eiffel Tower. Oh, poor Digipeater. This feels wrong. So, is there a possibility that we don't have to use a Digipeater? We could use somebody else in a 3D model? No, not a possibility? Okay. As the Titanoboa wraps around your body, it would eventually stop your blood from flowing. And we all know what that leads to.
Honestly, if it was coming after you, you probably wouldn't stand much of a chance. If it's got to be you versus the snake, my vote's going for the snake.
Sorry, Peter, this doesn't sound like it'd be very good for you. How is it that the Titanoboa can open its jaws so wide that it could swallow you whole?
Particularly the boa and python kind have really developed extremely elastic muscles and soft tissues in the throat region.
Snakes' esophaguses blow up like a balloon and then deflate over time, so we can apply the same logic to the Titanoboa.
The body of the animal is so large that just weight alone, it pins you to the ground, and it's going to get a hold of your head with its mouth, and you're going to be crushed just under the weight of the animal. Whether it could or could not constrict you really wouldn't matter.
Great, thanks for making this even worse for me. Now, as you're passing through the Titanoboa's body, you're slowly being dissolved by the snake's stomach acids. This would be a long, slow, and painful process. Remember, it's a 12.5 meter snake. Well, it wouldn't really be painful since you're already dead. And by the time the Titanoboa has finished digesting you, virtually nothing would be left. That's right, the Titanoboa's stomach acids are so strong that even your bones would be dissolved. The only parts of you remaining would be your nails and some of your hair.
So even though the Titanoboa's belly might be full, it might not be for the best.
If you choose to eat a big goat, you're sitting there for 3 or 4 days before you can move. That has serious biological repercussions because anything walking by and you're just like a snack with another snack inside of you.
So Peter, even though now you're eaten by a Titanoboa, you can at least be happy that the predator has now become the prey.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, let's rank these deaths on our pain scale. I'm giving this one a 7 out of 10 because we have some even more terrible scenarios coming up. Could a Titanoboa eat 5 people at once? Well, that was a question posed to us by our fan, Ethan4616. Well, I don't think so. Titanoboa was about 13 meters long and it weighed about a ton. It could definitely swallow a person whole. But 5? Not all at once, so no. Maybe with a bit of time and a buffet line of slow runners, it could be possible. Okay, now on to the second question in today's episode of Hypothetically Speaking. If a giant sloth fell on you from a tree, could you survive? Well, thanks to JustKate14 for that one. I think I know the answer to this one. A giant sloth was very big, bigger than you're familiar with a regular sized sloth. So it would probably be very heavy, but I want to check with the research team for a second, so let's move on to another one while they get back to me. Okay, on to our last question. If a giant centipede shows up at my house, did it find my address online? This one comes from Delete Me. Wait a second. Is this a sponsored segment for Delete Me again? Luckily, you won't see a giant prehistoric centipede show up at your house, but if a stranger shows up, well, they might have gotten your address from a data broker. Yeah, there are companies out there collecting your personal info from public records, social media, even other data brokers, and then selling it. That's why, personally, I use Delete Me, today's sponsor. Delete Me scans the internet for your personal data, things like your full name, address, your phone number, even your job history, and they remove it from hundreds of people search and background check sites. I didn't realize how much of my info was out there until I signed up, because within days, they found 774 pieces of personal data and removed my info from 24 sites. It's helped me feel more in control of who can access my info. But it's not just for me. Data brokers often link your profile to your family, so I added them to my plan as well. Delete Me helps you reduce exposure to risks like phishing scams, identity theft, even stalking. Getting started is simple. Just answer a few questions and they'll handle the rest. So if your personal data is wandering the digital wild, maybe it's time to rein it in. Head to joindeleteme.com/whatif and use code WHATIF to get 20% off your plan. Okay, so yeah, definitely a sponsored segment. Now let's get back to JustKate14's question, could a giant ground sloth crush you if it fell out of a tree? Well, my research team got back to me with the answer, and yes, I was absolutely right. These guys were up to 4 tons. I didn't know they were that heavy, but that's like getting flattened by a pickup truck wearing a fur coat. So keep your eyes on the trees, folks, and keep your data off the internet. That's it for Hypothetically Speaking. Keep the questions coming, and maybe next time we feature your question. Now let's get back to our prehistoric monsters. Okay, now that's how you die 60 million years ago. Now let's go back a little further, 66 million years into the past. This is the age of dinosaurs. Lurking around every corner is something that wants to kill you. Let's see how Digipeter fares. Why is the ground shaking? Oh no, oh gosh, it's a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I better start moving. Run, little guy, run! This nearly 7,000 kilogram beast was the ruler of the dinosaur kingdom. Hunting in complete solitude, it's approaching Digipeter at nearly 60 kilometers per hour. Yeah, I don't think I stand a chance here. Maybe I can survive by hiding behind a tree or staying very still. After all, the T-Rex was only good at detecting prey when it's moving. It had eyes the size of oranges, which are bigger than any mammal we have living today. there's no chance my digital legs are getting away from this. All of a sudden, the T-Rex bites with its banana-sized teeth. It had a bite force of nearly 13,000 psi. That would feel like you were being crushed by a building. Then, it would tear the flesh off your bones until they were stripped clean. That doesn't look too fun. But what do we really know about the T-Rex? I mean, other than what we've watched in the movies. What do the experts have to say?
I went to the Canadian Museum of Nature to talk with Dr. Jordan Mallon to find out. I saw online that tyrannosaurs are really fast runners. They can run up to 45 kilometers an hour. Is that true?
I think the consensus nowadays is T-Rex probably wasn't as fast as you suggested, probably more like half that. It would have needed more muscle dedicated to its legs than it possibly could have fit on those legs. Because of course, the bigger you are and the faster you want to move, the more muscle you need. And at some point, the amount of muscle required to move a certain speed is just impossible.
Not only that, but if the T-Rex were to move at speeds over 40 kilometers an hour, that would increase its chances of falling over, which, according to Dr. Mallon,
if you've got an animal moving that fast and it falls at those speeds, forget about it. Like, that's a dead animal.
okay, maybe its speed is over-exaggerated in movies, but you know what isn't? Their size. The T-Rex is ridiculously massive. It wasn't until I got to see a cast of its skull where it really started to click.
You know, T-Rex could eat you in one bite effectively. You know, the skull's 4 or 5 feet long.
And its teeth were even more terrifying.
What's really cool about T-Rex is that its teeth are unlike those of many other meat-eating dinosaurs. They're almost like banana-shaped. And this would have allowed T-Rex to not just cut through meat, but crush bone.
This kind of feels like a dagger slash really, really heavy knife with tiny serrations on both sides. I feel like this could kill somebody, honestly. It gets even worse. There's some evidence that suggests T-Rexes might have traveled and hunted in packs. So Peter, it looks like there's some good and bad. On one hand, the T-Rex is ridiculously massive, deadly, and you might have to deal with a couple at a time. But on the other, it's not as fast as we thought, so you might have a chance to outrun it. Good luck.
Okay, let's try this again. So, if you were transported 66 million years into the past and a T-Rex was coming for you, it might look something like this. Instead of just one T-Rex, Digipeter is dealing with 3, 4. He can try standing still in hopes that the T-Rexes don't see him, but wait, that doesn't look like it's gonna work. T-Rexes actually had amazing eyesight, and they didn't rely on movement to see their prey. They had better eyes than a modern-day hawk, so seeing prey was incredibly easy.
One of the really distinctive features about T-Rex in particular is that its eyes face forward like yours and mine. It had binocular vision. It had an overlapping field of view. So the eyes would have been located one here and in the same socket on the other side here. That's a big eye. It would have taken in a lot of light, so they almost certainly had good vision.
So Digipeter has no choice but to run away and hope for the best. And this time, running might be his best option. Oh no, never mind. Remember, T-Rexes were also ambush predators, so you likely wouldn't even have the chance to run away from them.
Jurassic Park, the T-Rex in that movie was always roaring and announcing its presence. You knew it was getting close before it was there because it was causing the ground to shake. And very likely T-Rex was not quite so loud.
Instead, they'd sneak up on you, chomp down, and kill you. Then the whole group of T-Rexes would devour your body, bones and all.
So if the T-Rex ate everything and it was a bone crusher, did it actually eat the bones of the animals that it ate?
Yes, and I've got something to show you here. This is actually a T-Rex turd. There was some science done on this. It was put inside of a CT scanner, and it contains many fragments of dinosaur bone.
Ooh, this one is nasty. This is an 8 on the pain scale. But the T-Rex wasn't the only deadly creature that would be out to get you. Another deadly dino and Jurassic Park star during this time? The Raptor. If they're anything like what we see in the movies, these guys are terrifying and extremely dangerous. Early research depicted these creatures standing at about 2 meters tall. That's 6 feet. They would easily use their size and strength to overpower Digipeater. The main thing you'd need to watch out for? Their sharp, sickle-shaped claws. These claws could inflict fatal wounds or disembowel you almost instantly. And good luck outrunning them. A raptor could run at speeds of over 40 kilometers per hour.
This sounds pretty bad for you, but I wonder if we can get a second opinion.
So the velociraptors in Jurassic Park were nowhere as big as they were depicted. Velociraptors in life were more turkey-sized. They're quite a bit smaller.
Good news, but you still gotta worry about those claws.
Historically, the thinking was that that killer claw there, the idea was that really it slashed open the belly of its prey.
But current research suggests that these so-called killer claws may have been quite different.
The problem is that when you actually look at the cross-section of the claw, it's not especially sharp or pointed. It's quite rounded. And so now the thinking is that maybe that claw was used to, like as a crampon, maybe to climb up on top of its prey, or maybe it was used to hold down the prey while the jaws did the dirty work.
In order to get our answer, I wanted to know just one simple thing. If a human was to hunt a raptor, who would win?
One-on-one?
Yep.
I think humans are pretty smart. I'll go advantage human.
Okay, but what does that mean for Digipeater? How many could he take on?
So I'll give you 5. Five, yeah.
That's pretty good.
How many raptors do you think I could take on?
11.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
All right, I like my odds. So, based off what we now know about raptors, maybe an attack would look more like this. Let's start by making the raptor way smaller and adding some feathers, another thing Dr. Mallon told us. Now it kind of looks more like a modern-day bird. And just like we're not afraid of most birds, you probably don't need to be incredibly scared of raptors. Sure, they might attack and hurt you. Again, they have the claws and the sharp teeth, but in terms of them killing our Digipeater, they don't really stand a chance. The only other thing Digipeater would have to worry about is if these raptors traveled in packs.
A lot of people think that raptors moved about in packs, that they were pack hunters. Again, that's thanks to the movies. But we actually don't have great evidence for pack hunting in any of these animals.
Phew, okay. Then I'm gonna chalk this up as a win for me, or for Digipeater. It looks like there's a good chance he'd survive an encounter with a raptor. So this is more like a 5 out of 10 on the pain meter. Okay, let's get back to our giant sloth. Would dying at the slow hands of this creature really be that bad? Well, again, our correspondent Rose may have the answer.
You might think of a giant sloth as, well, sloth-like, moving slowly and methodically. I'm talking 1/4 of a kilometer an hour, but they're actually a lot faster than that. I talked to Marisa Gilbert to find out more.
They probably moved around 3 to 5 kilometers an hour, and they probably were able to do short bursts of, 8 kilometers an hour, but they were not very fast animals.
But we wouldn't have to worry about it killing us, right? These giant sloths were strictly herbivores.
We can say that yes, they were eating plant material. We know they were eating stems, foliage, leaves, that sort of thing, fruits.
But this time, instead of this giant sloth attacking us humans, it may have been the other way around. Megatherium may have gone extinct due to humans and climate change.
Sites have found tool marks on Megatherium and other ground sloth bones. And so it's safe to say that yes, it was a great resource for our ancestors. They were hunting and utilizing ground sloths for sure.
Finally, now it's time for some revenge. Instead of Digipeater constantly getting his butt kicked by prehistoric creatures, he's gonna fight back and win. The Megatherium was a type of giant sloth that originated in South America. Around 35 million years ago, when humans hunted these beasts, We did so with a variety of different tactics. Instead of using brute force and chasing these animals down, we used a more stealthy approach. And that's what Digipeter is going to do. Let's equip him with a stone spear and see what happens. As he approaches the local watering hole, he sees a giant sloth, ready for the taking. This could mean food for him and his tribe for the next 3 months. But remember, it's a giant sloth. These creatures were massive. They needed multiple humans to take them down. So, let's duplicate Digipeter and give him a fighting chance. Ah, that's better. Okay, now this should be a walk in the park. Our Digipeters go and ambush the Megatherium, poking and prodding with their spears, but as they continue their fight, it's not looking good. What happened here? Well, even though we had all the advantages we could think of, hunting a giant sloth was still no easy task back in the day. Even though they were mainly herbivores, they were pacifists. They'd still fight back when pushed into a corner. Their claws were more than 30 centimeters long. That's 1 foot. They mainly used them for digging roots, but now they're being used for clawing humans. If you got swiped with one of these, you'd be left to bleed out. A slow, painful death. You might be able to recover, but without modern medicine, the chances are pretty slim. This is an 8 out of 10 for me. Okay, next, we're going over 300 million years into the past to experience the Carboniferous period. This era had one particularly terrifying trait: giant insects. Now, this was because of really high oxygen levels in the atmosphere at the time. The insects drank it up. The extra oxygen allowed them to grow bigger than we've ever seen. One of the most notable bugs, the Arthropleura. This giant centipede-like creature was over 2 meters long. Once it sees you, it'll rush on over and start biting you with its giant fangs. An insect this large is surely going to want to attack you. Maybe it wants your blood. Or at least that's what you think would happen with an insect so large. Actually, research suggests that the Arthropleura was a super slow-moving insect. It hung out in forests and dined on dead plant material all day. It wouldn't be interested in you or any other creature. I'm giving this one a 0 on the pain scale. Okay, so we might not have to worry about a giant insect coming after us, but one creature we will have to worry about? The Saber-toothed Tiger. Let's fast forward from the Carboniferous to just 56 million years ago, a time when these beasts were one of the apex predators. These giant cats weighed over 200 kilograms and could run up to 40 kilometers per hour, but only for short bursts. And due to this lack of running, saber-toothed tigers were ambush predators. They'd hide in the bushes and the tall grass, waiting to strike. And when they did, they'd pounce on you with their giant claws and teeth. Their canine teeth could be up to 20 centimeters long. But once they got hold of you, there'd be no going back. The saber-tooth would be on top of you, clawing and biting. It would likely go for your neck first to incapacitate you, kill you. Then it would feast on the rest of you. But unlike most predators during these times, this ferocious tiger wouldn't consume everything. It'd feast on your muscles and your flesh, but leave your bones. This is because it didn't want to damage its valuable canine teeth. Remember, we're about 56 million years away from veterinary dentists. Without the canine teeth that this beast was named for, it wouldn't be all that scary.
And you probably wouldn't have to worry about these saber-toothed tigers attacking you in the first place.
So we don't have any evidence of any tool marks on Smilodon, and we don't have any evidence of Smilodon attacking or having used humans as prey. We do know that they overlapped in time and space for quite some time. And I could say with certainty that there were encounters. They did see each other. They lived in the same place. They utilized the same prey. Were they prey? Were they preyed upon? I can't answer that.
So luckily for you, Peter, even if you were in this time period and saw this big cat, you probably wouldn't end up in a fight with one. But let's say you somehow did and wanted to survive. What are you doing next?
Humans would craft spears and strategize on how they'd attack a saber-toothed tiger. They'd also make sure that they set up camps in places that would give them a lot of advance notice if a saber-tooth was about to attack. These first encounters with saber-toothed tigers would be terrifying. Similar to the sloth, a single attack from this beast would mean the end for you. Yeah, I'm giving this one a 9 on the pain meter. But the good news is, it wouldn't always be like this.
After all, these saber-toothed tigers went extinct 10,000 years ago. And it wasn't from humans. There is no evidence that shows we had any significant encounters.
There was climate change happening at the time, and so they were part of that larger megafauna that went extinct at the end of the last ice age.
Okay, next up, the Terror-croc. About 80 million years ago, this beast reigned supreme. It was over 10 meters long and had a stronger bite force than the T-Rex. Similar to a lot of other animals on our list, Terror-crocs would ambush you. You'd likely be unaware of their presence due to their ability to camouflage themselves near the water. If you got too close, a Terror-croc would quickly lunge at you with its powerful open jaws and then bite down. And if its bite didn't kill you, it would perform the death roll. This is when a Terror-croc drags you underwater and spins you rapidly. This kind of punishment would almost certainly kill you. At that point, the Terror-croc would use its massive teeth to chew you into chunks, splitting your body into multiple pieces. And then the Terror-croc would consume every last chunk of you. Now, similar to modern-day crocodiles, the Terror-croc had a highly acidic stomach acid that was capable of dissolving your bones. Ugh, I think I'll pass. Now, given that these creatures basically roam around today, I'm giving this a 10. More on the fear scale, but also on the pain meter. Regardless of whatever creature we think we might be able to take on in a fight, I think coming across any of these scenarios would be terrifying. Let's just say I'm pretty happy that humans are at the top of the food chain in our modern world. Seeing these creatures today, like the megalodon, would not be good news for us humans. But that sounds like a story for another What If.